Hello, my name is Maria, and I usually spend my days up here in Luleå in the north of Sweden. It's actually Sweden's northernmost university. I have for the last couple of years studied accessibility to different environments for children with disabilities. And the one environment that has fascinated me the most is playgrounds. Playgrounds are a common place that can be found in most cities and towns and neighborhoods and schoolyards. I do not know what playgrounds look like in your country, but I do hope that they are designed to be accessible and usable. If you look at the picture, it is easy to realize that this playground is neither accessible or usable. And according to a Swedish report from 2014, only 4% of the country's playgrounds are built with the intent to be, at least in part, accessible for children with disabilities. Do you know what it looks like in your country? The design, is that of importance? Well, that's something I asked myself. I have done quite a few studies, and I realized that there is a lack of awareness and knowledge on how playgrounds could become more accessible. For example, in this picture, it shows a slide outside a large rehabilitation center for children here in Sweden. And this slide was especially made for children with disabilities because of the long exit ramp. The ramp makes it so the child will stop on the ramp and not fall into the sand. And the landscape architect had especially ordered this special slide, which of course was a little more expensive than regular slides. But she had not thought about the way to go up onto the slide. And there is, you can see the stairs. So there was no thought put into accessibility. So to me, it was clear that there was a lack of both awareness and knowledge. And there are a lot of parents that have children with different disabilities that recognizes that the environmental factors have a big impact, if not even the biggest impact, that hinders participation for their children in different community settings. So for me, it was also interesting to find out how parents to children with disability perceived playground design. So what did the parents tell me? Well, these are some categories that came from one of the studies that I did when I interviewed the parents. They said that playground design makes play activities and independence difficult for the children. The playground design hinders participation with peers. And playground is an environment that creates a negative feeling. And I'm sure that's not the intention of playgrounds, that it should make children feel uncomfortable and create a negative feeling. Let's continue what the parents said. When reflecting over playground's design in relation to the child, most parents described that playgrounds were an environment filled with difficulties for the child to play in. The parents reflected over solutions to make the playground more usable for their child. If a playground had contained simpler play equipment, more movable toys or playhouses, the child could have used more things on the playground. If the ground cover and the design of the equipment had been different, the child could also have used more of the playground. And one parent said, "I have to go with her every time. She can't make it through the entrance by herself." Here are some other examples of play equipment. This is outside another children's rehabilitation clinic. In the first picture, the bigger picture, you can see the play equipment. You can also see that before even getting to the stairs, you have a big curb, then you have gravel, and then you make it up the stairs. You can't see it, but then in order to make it to the stairs on the other side, you have to go through sand to climb yet another flight of stairs. What is interesting with this picture is also the red asphalt that you can see. This was put there especially to make it easy for children that uses wheelchairs to drive on it. It's a softer type of asphalt. And in the same clinic you can see the red asphalt again on the smaller picture, but there you can also see that the play equipment is placed in a circle where there's sand all around it and a big curb to get to. So what do children say about this? One wonders. One child said, "Once I was with a friend at a playground. We sat on the swing, but it was only once." This child talked to me about this experience as a very, very special thing. She had actually managed to make contact with another child, and they sat on the swing and they talked for hours. But as she said, it only happened once. The next child said, "I'm always with an adult. I wish I could sit on the swing with the others." And many of the children wished that they did not have to have an adult with them all the time. Sometimes because the other children spoke to the adult instead of them, and also because they wanted to show their independence. And the third child would say, "I sit in the sandbox," or "I sit on the swing." And actually, this is the way a lot of the children with disabilities spoke. They would sit, or they would go down the slide. They spoke of what they did. When I spoke to children with no disabilities, they would say, they would give me names. I asked them, "What do you do on a playground?" And they would say, "We play tag, or we play school, or we play monster," or other names of games that they did. Or their playing had sort of, how should I say, they had names for it. But that was something that the children with disabilities never mentioned. They sat or they went down the slide. That's what they did. So, something I think it's worth discussing is if playground design can cause play deprivation, dependency, and stigmatization. What I learned from the parents' perception is that playgrounds design limits participation in play activities for children with disabilities. And this can, according to many studies, lead to play deprivation, which in turn can result in poor social skills, limited motivation, decreased concentration, and more solitary play or play with adults. There are also several studies regarding children's need to connect with friends and to feel a sense of accomplishment from doing things independently. This is important for children's self-esteem. But it's also important to be successful and independent from adults in order to enjoy an activity. And this is something that adults around the child need to be able to recognize and see that this is important. The findings show that the parents perceive the playgrounds as inaccessible, and that this caused a situation that made the children feel stigmatized, and that it in turn resulted in that children avoided playgrounds. For children with disabilities, playgrounds is, according to parents' perception, a context which disqualifies them to participate in the activity that takes place there, most often due to inaccessible environments, physical environments. according to the Convention of the Right of a Child, which was signed in most countries in the world. It doesn't state that playgrounds should be accessible for children with disabilities. It does, however, state that the special needs for children with disabilities should be recognized, and that children with disabilities should have access to recreational opportunities in a manner conducive to the child achieving the fullest possible social integration and individual development. So if playgrounds are an important environment for all children, but does not support play activities and social integration for children with disabilities, are we then really following the convention? So should the playground only be a place for physical play activities, or should it also be a meeting place where social interaction is in focus? We, as occupational therapists, with our knowledge of environmental barriers, understanding of disability, and specific knowledge of activities, are in an ideal position to develop and maximize play activities on playgrounds in order to increase accessibility and usability, and with the goal of social inclusion and social interaction. Therefore, I think occupational therapists need to work more on changing the environment on a societal level by having a role in designing public spaces and advocating for accessibility in the community. Thank you.